Let's continue our focus now on the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. As I mentioned, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will give an address, we're told, later today to kind of wrap up the work of the inquiry so far. The Commission has called witnesses from state-owned enterprises, government and private sector to testify on alleged corruption. The cost of the inquiry now run into the millions after it was granted an extension earlier this year. Joining us to unpack now the Commission and some of the challenges that it faces is Advocate Paul Hoffman from Accountability Now. Advocate, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM Report. I'm hoping we'll spend much of our time honing in on the synergy or lack thereof between the inquiry and civil society. In many respects, there's a sentiment that the Commission didn't have to reinvent the wheel because a lot of the groundwork had already been done by civil society organizations. The question in hindsight now is, do we feel the Commission has actually taken advantage of that?
Good morning to you and to your viewers as well. Thank you for the opportunity. I think that one must not lose sight of the fact that a commission of inquiry is not a court of law. It does have advocates and it does have a judge in charge, but it is in essence an instrument of the executive branch of government. It is not going to send anybody to jail. It is not going to order anybody to pay back the money, as some in politics like to chant. Yeah. It is simply going to find facts and it is going to make recommendations. And its factual findings are binding on nobody, and its recommendations can either be accepted or rejected by the government once the report is to hand. The role of civil society, where obviously the evidence of transactions is not directly available to civil society players, is now going to come to fore in the last stage of the inquiry, because there is an opportunity to make representations to the Commission as to what its recommendations are going to be. Now, from the point of view of Accountability Now, we said right at the beginning that if the Deputy Chief Justice were to recommend remedial legislation to correct the hollowing out of the criminal justice administration that took place during the Gupta Zuma era, then the first step to fix the problem in South Africa will have been taken. We have been advocating the creation of a new Chapter 9 institution which has a mandate to deal with corruption, and that would cover everything from prevention, combating, investigation and prosecution of those involved with grand corruption. The NEC of the ANC has passed a resolution at the beginning of August this year, which is very much in line with what Accountability Now has been advocating for a long time. But nobody has heard anything further about the implementation of that NEC resolution. So I think a lot of follow-up work by the Commission is required on that. And the second thing that or second topic that the Commission could address would be the banning or the ending of cadre deployment in the public administration. That notion of hegemonic control of all the levers of power by the governing alliance is something that has caused a lot of the trouble in relation to state capture, because the deployed cadres feel that their loyalty is to the ANC and not to the people of South Africa. So if that can be addressed by taking remedial steps to end cadre deployment, the conflict of interest will be brought to an end, and people will be serving in the public service and in the state-owned enterprises in the interests of the public, rather than to pursue the agenda of the political party that deployed them. If those two recommendations come through, then Accountability Now will be very pleased with the outcome of the inquiry, and it is to be hoped that both the new Chapter 9 institution and the ending of cadre deployment will be the lasting legacy of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry.
Right. I mean, I'm intrigued by this notion of this new Chapter 9 institution you're suggesting. For those who aren't necessarily privy to the detail, who don't follow the detail close enough, how different would this Chapter 9 institution be, for instance, to the Public Protector's Office, which is also a Chapter 9 institution that is established with, I guess, the hopes that it will protect top of its agenda the interests of the public?
Yes, certainly the mandate of the Public Protector is essentially to address maladministration. And maladministration can occur without corruption. What we are suggesting is a new entity that will really slot in between the work of the Auditor General, who often finds evidence of malfeasance in the audits that are carried out, and the work of the Office of the Public Protector, which is directed at maladministration rather than corruption. You know, maladministration occurs because people don't quite know how to do their job properly, whereas corruption occurs as a consequence of a secret arrangement between the corruptor and the corruptee to abuse the system and enrich themselves at the expense of the poor in particular and the public in general. So the idea of an integrity commission comes from the findings of the Constitutional Court in the Glenister litigation, which was waged between 2008 and 2014. And out of that litigation have come 5 criteria with which the anti-corruption machinery of state ought to comply. We call them the STIRS criteria. So that's 5 points: specialized, trained, independent, properly resourced, and secure in tenure of office. That's what you need if you are going to have effective and efficient anti-corruption machinery of state. And the only way that the situation can be addressed rapidly is to deal with the dysfunction, the hollowing out of the NPA and the Hawks by replacing them with a new institution. That is the line that we are taking.
Right. Well, from your lips to the Deputy Chief Justice's ears, thanks very much for your take on this ongoing matter. We're going to have to fold our conversation there, at least for now. No doubt we'll be touching base with you on the other side of the report, so to speak. Thanks very much for your time. Advocate Paul Hoffman is Director of Accountability Now.